I'll begin by saying to you all, thank you for your patience with this as we're learning as we go. Good afternoon, members. My name is Thomas Kirkpatrick, and I'm chair of the PIP's National Elections Committee. I'd like to welcome you to the 2021 Full-Time Vice President Town Hall. This is our second event in a series of town halls brought to you by the National Elections Committee to allow members to hear from the candidates prior to the vote. There will be additional town halls for part-time vice president on October 7th and president on October 15th. This event will be conducted in both official languages with simultaneous interpretation provided. Should you require interpretation, please set your language now. On behalf of the entire committee, I'd like to welcome our moderator, Ms. Lise Habibi, an experienced professional facilitator that some of you may recognize since she's done work for PIPs in the past. Ms. Habibi will now explain the town hall's process and rules. Ms. Habibi?
Thank you, Tom, and happy to respond to Lise as needed. So welcome, everybody. It's an honor to be here and to help make this event a success. Comme Tom vient de le dire,
as Tom just said, we're going to be using both official languages today. If you do need simultaneous interpretation, please go and select your language of choice at the bottom of Zoom. If you do have any technical difficulty, we have LMB technicians in the chat box.
7 candidates for the role of full-time vice president. And as I review the process, I have highlighted and spotlighted the technicians, so we should be all ready to go when I finish the introduction. The candidates are spotlighted in the order in which they will answer the first question, and then the order of response will change after that. Each candidate will share an opening statement about their vision for PIPs, and then they will take turns answering the same 4 questions, and then they will end with a final takeaway message. There will be a 5-minute bio break after the first 2 questions. And the speaking order was first set without names using the following rules. Give all candidates an opportunity to be among the first and among the last to answer a given question. Scramble the sequences so candidates will not always answer in the same order. Do not place a candidate in the same spot in the sequence 2 questions in a row. Candidates who speak first and last on the vision speak in the middle on the takeaways. No candidate speaks last on one question, then first on the following question. And finally, we will use the same sequence as I mentioned for the first question as for the prepared introductory statement to allow all candidates equivalent time to prepare since the questions were only shared 5 minutes ago. Une fois le cadre établi pour...
Once the order has been done, I actually picked the name randomly. Actually, whoever was on the Zoom session, you saw how I did. So right now on the screen, this is the order that we're going to have. We have Ala Jani, Sean O'Reilly, Yvon Brodeur, Jenny Esnar, Aladdin Alibai, Norma Dome, Frank Wong. Pour terminer. To finish, they will have 2 minutes for the opening and closing declaration, and then 90 seconds to answer the other questions. The first questions were received by email a few minutes ago. The next 2 questions after the bio break will be sent in the 5 minutes prior to that.
On the floor, our thanks to those of you who submitted questions in advance for the committee's consideration. And one final point before we start on the opening statements, we will have a timer showing for the statements, and I'll ask the candidates to keep an eye on that timer. I'll first try to interrupt if you go over time, and if that doesn't work, then I will be using the power of the mute button that I have as co-host, but hopefully I won't have to resort to that. It's very, very uncomfortable to have to do that to a person. Just a reminder again that the session is being recorded. And so if Hugo, I'll invite you to put the timer on your screen. We've got it there. I love it when technology works. So I think we are all set to go. I'll look to the candidates to see if anybody raises a hand with a question. Otherwise, then I will ask the first question, which you've all received in advance. You each have 2 minutes to respond. What is your vision for PIPs for the next 3 years? Al, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the Elections Committee, and I want to thank the moderator and everyone who organized this for today's panel. If I'm elected, I would like PIPS to be more active and visible to the members. This can be done by and achieved by the following. Provide the strategic direction of the board's first meeting to the membership in a report form. Propose that all groups and consultation chairs be given the ability to join board meetings virtually, and the Institute should continue providing this option. Give members the ability to participate in board meetings virtually if the platforms and technology is in place. Limit closed sessions to issues which have legal implications. Encourage board members to vote on issues and not tie it into the person or persons. I will provide a written report on summary of key issues in bilingual format after each board meeting and with the assistance of the staff. Thank you very much. And that is my vision for PIPS for the next 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Great that you stuck to the time and even gave us a few seconds back. You're up next, Sean. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to begin by acknowledging with respect that the land on which I am coming to you from is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you from here. My vision for PIPS goes much farther than the next 3 years. In the long term, what I want to see is an organization and a union that bargains fair and equitable contracts for its members, that fights for them in their time of need, and communicates and informs them in a timely manner on the issues that are important to them. En français.
As for the next 3 years, I think we have a unique occasion to re-examine the way we offer services to our members and how we're going to serve the next generation of members, and look again how we're going to be working in our own workplace. Right now, we're doing good things, but I think at other places we have to reorganize ourselves. Be assured that our key services of negotiation, representation, and consultation will not be influenced. We're going to be working on it, making sure that our membership are receiving everything that they pay for.
Involved in the early 2000s, I was frustrated with the lack of communication that was coming out of PIPS in my own group. I felt we were communicating in a timely manner, not communicating in a timely manner, or in ways that would reach all the different sorts of members. Ways of communicating have evolved, but I feel PIPS has not kept up with the changes our society has rapidly gone through. We need to keep up and progress, otherwise we will be left behind and we will be disconnected from our members' needs. New ways to engage our members is the key to our future success. In addition, we need to ensure we have a diverse organization to continue to fight against inequality that still exists in our society. We need to learn about and acknowledge the wrongs of the past and present and ensure that they never ever happen again.
And thank you, Sean. Yvon, c'est ton tour.
Micro? Can you activate your microphone, please? Thank you so much for your patience. Yes, we have to move forward for the professional. We have to make sure that our services are well known within the population. We have to have be more visible at a national level. We have also to decentralize some of the central power at the office in the region, such as communication, lobbying, mobilization, and trade union activities. And we also have to look for the new members. We have to promote and put forward a training session, a peer-to-peer training session. This was tested in Quebec. This was a real success. Maybe we could implement something like that. I would say that the directors in the regions should be re-examined. I think they're doing exactly the same job, and we're in 2021 right now. We have to be open to the needs of our member, making sure that we do the promotion of the professional services in the workplace. We have to do a better follow-up of our member, making sure that we understand their mandates. We have to make sure that we have an AGM and that we talk about what we're doing right from one ocean from coast to coast, making sure that they're involved in the trade union activities. And it has not to be an obstacle. And this shouldn't be an obstacle for promotion. Making sure that we're working on working relations, working condition, improve the partnership with the other trade unions, making sure also that we're putting together, that we're talking about equity, diversity, and inclusion, and making sure that the board is more efficient. So this is my vision for the next 3 years. Thank you so much. Jenny, you have the floor.
Thank you. You see, my vision for PIPS is to engage the silent majority. In this session, we have labor activists and leaders with their respective groups, but what about those who are not engaged or feel ignored or just don't understand what PIPS represents? You see, engagement is the key. Also, for us to work with other unions and affiliates and ensuring we are the respected group of professionals. I want more involvement from our separate employers. Those groups present new and engaging ideas when it comes to collective bargaining and workplace enhancements. En français, le travail pour l'activisme.
So we have to be proactive, progressive, and inclusive. Working groups, for those who are claiming, for equity-seeking groups, have to be involved. We have to do more. COVID-19 highlighted the different disparities against different groups, equity-seeking groups, within the public service. It is imperative that you have one voice, and our position has to be respected. We want that the PIPS be the leader of change. Union work has changed. Right now, we have the opportunity to be leaders, tomorrow's leaders. The workplace has changed over the past few months. We want to make sure to work in the benefit of our members.
Progressive and inclusive. The equity-seeking groups we created this past year are gaining ground, but we need to do much more. And Crove brought the light to those requirements of social activism.
Thank you, Jenny. Alaudin, you're up next.
Hi, welcome everybody. My vision for PIPS is I want to go back to strengthening the 3 pillars of the union, specifically bargaining, representation, and consultation. And when I mean with bargaining, we've always settled for the pattern. In the second pass round for the AFS group, we broke the paradigm shift. We got a wage increase that was different than the pattern based on the professional skills. So we need to do that. In the last little while, in the last, I'd say 10 years, the pension and medical and dental benefits don't reflect our members' needs. There's been inequities created between retirement benefits and current benefits. Supposedly, when you get retired, you don't need medical benefits as much as we need. The other thing is that we've allowed a 2-tier pension system to be created for new employees, and we need to fix the core principles of the union, what we fight for. We also need to establish a mentoring program for new and young members so they can broadly participate in union committees and employer consultations. And that would include the people with, to include more inclusive and diversity in there. So we do need to take and focus on the core principles. And once we've established that, we can start establishing the other broader issues in society that need to be done. But we need to get our core principles represented for our members. Thank you.
Thank you, Alaudin. Norma, you're up next. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, fellow colleagues, as you know, I'm seeking re-election as your full-time vice president. A few short years ago, negotiated as part of our collective agreements with the federal government, adoption of the model scientific integrity policy represents a huge stride forward for science in the public interest and the federal scientists who undertake it. I'm pleased to inform you that as your member representative and current chair on the Science Advisory Committee, reporting to the PIPS board regularly, we worked hard to draft the original template. My friends, it's an exciting time for you and I to be members of the Professional Institute of the Public Service of Canada. Building on our stories of the past, we're changing our world, we're changing our future possibilities. And we're doing that through our strategic plan with 3 areas of focus. Value to you, our members, and we are an upside down triangle. You as the members are on top. We've got enhanced influence and we've got a model organization in our strategic plan. Our core ideology with respect to our missions and values are mine: integrity, respect, service to you, excellence, and that transcends our envisioned future for the next 3 years. Please view my website, www.normadome.com, in both English and French for more details on my proven track record and my 3-year vision for PIPS. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Norma. And Frank, go ahead, please.
Yes. I would like PIPS to collaborate with other unions on common initiatives more, and also see our members become more engaged in union affairs. As vice president, I would advocate that our union reach out to all other unions to work together to reform staffing policies. Currently, our employers have all of the control. We joined the public service to serve the public and also to pursue careers in our growth in our careers, not to maintain in the same position for 30 plus years. At CRA, we are currently seeing that our employer is using third-party means such as LinkedIn to hire staff they deem to have knowledge and experience that internal staff do not have. Shame on our employers for not training us to have the knowledge and skills required to adapt to the ever-changing environment, and for holding us back because we don't fit their mold. We must sit down with our members of parliament, president of the Treasury Board, deputy minister of the Privy Council, and heads of separate employers and negotiate a better way, including having legislation changed to maintain a healthy, viable, professional, and dedicated public service. As for improved membership engagement, we need to educate our members of their role in our organization. We exist collectively to serve them efficiently and effectively. We need to be transparent and accountable in all of our actions and operations. I would advocate offering basic training for all members on the terms and conditions of employment, on the rights and responsibilities with respect to the workplace policies, including staffing, and finally, on other benefits for PIPS members, such as Service Plus. I would advocate providing salary replacement for this work time basic training. In addition, I advocate offering members who do not serve on any constituent bodies the opportunity to observe the PIPS AGM in person with their
Thank you, Frank.
representatives.
I'm going to have to stop you here. Hopefully you'll be able to get those points in at later questions.
Sure.
So that was the round of prepared opening statements. Thank you to all our candidates. You've had an opportunity to show the variety of approaches that we'll be seeing throughout this debate. It's not a debate, it's simply a town hall. Je vais poser la première question en français, comme convenu.
I'll ask the first question in French, as agreed. I'll repeat it once to make sure that everybody understands. You received it a few minutes ago. So the first question is, what do you say about the announcement of the mandatory vaccination against COVID-19 of the employees that are under the federal government jurisdiction? So what do you say regarding the announcement of mandatory vaccination against COVID-19 of federal employees? And I will ask Al to speak first.
Al, are you with us? You're up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for this question. I think this has been a very common thing today in the government. And what we need to understand is we have to respect the public health direction which the government's giving for the majority of the people, because COVID is real and it is out there. Government has given out $145 billion out there for assistance. I personally have been impacted when I had to go to emergency and I saw people having problems with breathing and stuff. I was there till 3 a.m. in the morning, and I was there because of a bicycle accident. But I'm telling you right now, except if you have religious beliefs or if you have accommodation because of health, then I understand, then we have to respect that. But in the environment where we are looking after parents and we're looking after children, we need to make sure that we don't expose them to health issues. So I think that we have to follow the direction of Health Canada, and the government has to make sure that people are safe, because it's no different than when we had the Walkerton uh, uh, affair of the water safety. We need to make sure that the majority of the people out there have to be respected for their health and their benefits. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Al. Sean, you're up next.
Merci. La pandémie était
The pandemic in Canada was difficult for me and my family, and probably for all families in Canada. We are greatly affected, and the economy has been affected, and most of the people should be vaccinated to avoid the spread of COVID-19.
vaccinated. We want to reduce the effects of COVID. I feel that the policy that came from the government was very politically motivated. And I have concerns now that public servants will be pushing back. And I think the government needs to do a better job of communicating exactly what is required in that policy. Like I said, I want everyone to get vaccinated. It was a tough time for all of us. But the government has to be clear, what are going to be the implications? We need more details on exactly what it is. When you force someone to do something, you see what happens. It's been very prevalent throughout the pandemic when people were forced to do things. That is not the way to do it. It should be through education and information and helping people understand the importance of it. I have no problem submitting my double vaccination status to the government of Canada. However, we need to work better. The government needs to do better and work with us as a union to make sure this policy is implemented as much as possible through our membership. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Merci. Yvon?
Thank you. This is a file that's a burning topic. We don't know when this will come to an end. I believe that we have to respect all the guidelines that come from the government, regardless the region, the province. We're all facing this virus, so there are several impacts in the future when people will come back to work, and the guidelines that will be established to facilitate this return to work. The EAP will have to be efficient and to have the provisions for this, and certain organizations might not have the means and the wherewithal, the material, or the tools to deal with this. They're going to have to turn around, and they're going to need to the bodies that help the organizations and the businesses. It's a good thing that the government put in place and grabbed the bull by the horns. And what's interesting, the evolution of the people who asked to be vaccinated, but there are people reluctant. I don't understand the reluctance of these people. Thank you, Eva. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Jenny?
At PIPS, we fought so hard for a safe and healthy workplace. Why recant that now? The government has forwarded recommendations, mandatory recommendations, but it's up to us to push back to bring it within a realm that is comfortable for all of our members. We represent the scientists that did the testing on these vaccinations. We respect what they brought back to us. They will collaborate with our scientists, and it's up to us to push back. But a healthy and safe workplace is insurmountable to all members, to everyone. And it should not be a poker game to play with people's lives. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jenny. Aladdin?
Yes. First, I want to say I'm the AFS chair on the National Health and Safety Policy Committee from CRA, representing over 50,000 employees. So I've been front and center during the pandemic from the beginning. In terms of mandatory vaccinations, we have to respect employees' rights in terms of religious exemptions and people who can't actually take the vaccines. So I'll go and I have regular consultations at CRA. So we just had a call on Tuesday, and CRA's current plan is to get employees to attest to one of the 4 conditions: partially vaccinated, fully vaccinated, unable to vaccinate, and unwilling to vaccinate. And I guess the issue is going to be how we deal with the second 2 categories on that. And we have to be fair and respectful in that. But as a union, we always choose a collective over individual rights. So in a similar way with the pandemic, we have to look at what's good for the collective versus what's for the individual, but we have to respect that individual right. So as long as there's a valid reason, maybe it's there's a mask, there's PCR testing, but that all should be covered by the government in terms of cost. There shouldn't be an additional cost or burden as like the Alberta government or some others have imposed it on individuals because of no fault of their own, they have a bad reaction with vaccines. So that's where I stand. I am front and center on the OSH file, but we need to get past this, and we need to have the tools that develop to allow us to return back to a normal
Thank you.
society.
Thank you, Aladdin. Norma?
Fellow members, this is a huge, huge issue. And as such, unions should act collectively because the louder the voices, the more brain power, the more we can serve you. We are here to serve you, our members. Canada's unions are concerned about the potential of mandatory vaccination policies to hand employers overreaching powers. Does that make any sense? We are here and we don't understand why workers have to bear the consequences of this issue. So the following principles and priorities are therefore fundamental to the labor movement. Any decision to impose mandatory vaccination policies must be based on scientific evidence. I'm your chair of the Science Advisory Committee, and I hold that dearly. We've got to do what the public health officials are telling us, and we've got to ensure that we consult with employers and other unions. We need to implement and we need to collaborate and consult. Government and employers have an obligation to take steps to
Thank you, Norma. We're out of time, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Over to you, Frank.
My position right now is that I do not believe there is any legislation to mandate Canadian citizens to take the COVID-19 vaccines. Accordingly, I advocate that Canadians have the right to choose whether they wish to take the vaccine or not. As an aside, I am doubly vaccinated. Having said that, I also believe that we are obligated as citizens of this great country of ours to respect one another, to be civil to one another, and ensure our actions do not invade the privacy, health, and safety of others. Therefore, I support following public health guidelines regarding the use of masks, physical distancing, and also testing for COVID-19. We need to be and feel safe when we return to the workplace. I state for the record that I am not a scientist nor a lawyer. It is my understanding that these mandates are or will be challenged in courts. These court challenges will take a lot of time to resolve, possibly years. With respect to employment, as public servants, we have demonstrated that most of us can work from home to provide the quantity and excellent quality services Canadians continue to need and want. As Vice President, I would advocate that it is the employer's responsibility to hold up their end of the bargain when they hired us. They pay us for the services we provide. As long as we can provide the services in the quantity and quality expected as in the past.
Where time is up, Frank. I'm sorry. I hate to cut people off mid-sentence, but you'll have to keep an eye on the timer. So this next question, as I mentioned, the order is now going to be scrambled. I will be letting the first person to answer know that they are first before I ask the question, and then I'll simply call on you when your turn comes up. So Yvon will be the first person to answer this question. I will be asking it in English, and again, we'll ask it twice before we start. So the question is, how will you amplify the voices of members from marginalized communities, for example, people of color, LGBTQ+, Indigenous people, women in traditional male occupations, people with disabilities, to make PIPS a more inclusive organization? So again, how will you amplify the voices of members from marginalized communities? For example, people of color, LGBTQ2+, Indigenous people, women in traditional male occupations, people with disabilities, to make PIPS a more inclusive organization. Yvon.
Thank you. How would I tackle that? If we want to send a message, we're going to make our delegates, our members aware, because often there's a lack of information and training. I would give info sessions to make people, our members, the population also, to make them aware who are the people that surround us on a daily basis. And the training would be required so that we can train people so that they can go in crown corporations or departments to spread the word regarding these minorities. And we shouldn't stumble in order to go forward, because I find it immoral when people play a deaf ear. They believe that there are no barriers, that there's no discrimination. I find that pathetic. But training, information, and awareness, these would be criteria to go forward on this topic. Thank you.
Next on this one.
Thank you. I made change because I finally got a seat at the table to make change. And these groups need seats at the table in order for their agendas and their issues to be heard. PIPS for years didn't have much diversity at the top levels, very little at the group levels. These past few years that I've been on the board, many members of these equity-seeking groups reached out to me personally to share their stories. I embraced their stories, I embraced their experiences, and they brought forward many suggestions. I chair the HRDC committee. We created caucuses. The activity and the activists that were working behind the scenes to bring these agendas forward, I applaud them. But again, we still have to go out and reach out to many more who are still sitting in the corner, being abused or being disenfranchised from the organization. It's a matter of getting our stewards, using our steward network to reach out to these individuals, encouraging them, getting them involved, what little matters. But PIPS needs the diversity in order to make change, and seats at that table will make change.
Thank you, Jenny. Sean, you're up next.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to commend the board of directors and also the Human Rights and Diversity Committee over the past 3 years, creating those caucuses. I think it's been very key to start those discussions and to start to engage. And I think we need to continue to do that. It's not for me to dictate to a group of members how they should go out and learn and try to reach out to them. You know, we need to fund them. We need to make sure that they have the skills and the training necessary in order to engage with those members and to really find out from them what is key to reach those communities. I wholeheartedly agree that we need to look at our structure. We need to re-examine, you know, is it necessary to have, you know, specific seats at the table for those individuals? You know, we need to really reach out and engage with those folks. Otherwise, you know, we're going to continue to leave them behind, and it's a sin. We just commemorated the first day of Truth and Reconciliation, you know, and you know, we can't just stop with one day. You know, everyone was talking about yesterday. Yesterday was a very important day, but it's the continuing to have those dialogues, to continue to talk to those communities and to continue to understand exactly what they need to make sure that we represent them fully and completely. Thank you.
Thank you. Norma, you're up next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a huge, huge endeavor. We are asking folks to change generations of culture, generations of habits. We need to learn and we need to unlearn. I spent 16 hours yesterday listening to the Truth and Reconciliation, the whole full report with Jane Philpott, who is the Dean of Health Sciences at Queen's University. Why did I do that? Because I needed to learn, I needed to understand, I needed to reflect, and I needed to engulf myself so that I could have the empathy to plan strategic actions to help this situation. So it goes beyond training. You have to have the will to make the change, and you have to actually engage folks and be willing to be engaged yourself.
Time is up, Norma. Thank you.
Thank you.
Al, you're up next.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I will start with saying that we need to advocate our efforts with the Canadian Labour Congress. As a chair of a previous chair of Human Rights Committee in PIPS, and I had the opportunity to participate in Senate hearings on these important issues. We have to advocate for the change on the Employment Equity Act, because the Employment Equity Act does not go far enough. It has to be expanded to make sure that it doesn't only cover the 4 groups right now. It has to be extended to the LGBTQ community and other marginalized communities. We also have to make sure that we train our stewards to understand how the gaps are formed and how the labor market availability data is there, and what we need to do to improve the data that comes in from the census information, because the census information is incorrect. It's from 2016. We're sitting at 2021. The gaps in the labor market availability is from there. We need to advocate for changes so that Statistics Canada can grab the new stats and start to go in and manipulate the data so that we can get correct information on what the gaps in the labor market availability are.
Time is up, Al.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Frank, you're up next.
Sure. Thank you for the question. As Vice President, I would encourage PIPS to be a more inclusive organization than it is now. I would encourage members in these marginalized communities to self-identify and take opportunities to serve in our various volunteer positions and committees so that we can have a fuller representation. I would also encourage them to run for positions so that they will have a strong voice in leading PIPS to the next stage. I would encourage participation in events and promote these events held by these equity-seeking communities, and encourage our members to also participate in order to support these endeavors. Finally, I strongly believe that we need to fund and sponsor more of these events to celebrate members of these diversity communities, and but not just start by leading these events, but giving the opportunities of these members who volunteer to lead these events and plan them so that all can benefit from what the perspective that they hold can be carried forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. And Alauddin.
We need to listen to people, and we need to have a way for them to include, and sometimes as leaders, we also have to create the space for them to participate. So I'll give you an example. When Black Lives Matter started in information technology at CRA, there was a committee created to look at how staffing has affected Black members and other groups. In the national executive on the AFS has no Black members. So I reached out to, there's two stewards who are on the local end. I said, these are going to be the representatives, and I'm going to defer my decision to them. And I think that's, as a leader, you have to say, look, I'm going to be there supportive, and I'm going to be unconditionally supportive you when you make that decision. So we have to make room to allow those marginalized groups to actually participate in that. And that means some of us in elected positions and on elected committees will have to give some space to allow these people to participate. And that's a tough thing as a leader to say, look, I'll support you, but this is the best person to do the actual work on that. And so I will do my best to make sure I include everyone in there whenever they can be. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Alauddin. That concludes the first part of this panel. And I know we said you would get 5 minutes break, but we do have a little bit of time. We are a bit ahead of time, so I'm going to make an executive decision and give you 10 minutes of break. Hopefully the committee won't slap my fingers for doing so. So you're going to get the questions for the second part of the panel shortly as candidates. I would invite you to stay connected, please, to the meeting. Just turn off your camera and microphone during the break. And in 10 minutes, well, in 9 minutes now, at 2:25 by my clock, we will start up again. Bonne pause. On revient dans 9 minutes.
A good break. We'll resume in 9 minutes.
Tous les candidats à allumer leur caméra pour confirmer que vous êtes de retour.
Please turn on your cameras to make sure that you're back.
With us, please. Excellent. Thank you. Alors, comme convenu.
So as agreed, there are 2 questions plus the closing statements in the second half of the meeting. I will start with a question in French. The first person to answer to that question will be Norma. And the question is the following. The science must always be a research for the truth, and we should accept the questions that are put forth. How are you going to defend the right to scientific people who will discuss matters that are relevant to their expertise? So science must seek the truth and should accept the questions that are asked. How will you defend the right of the people, scientific people, of any topics that is up in their domain? Norma, please.
Thank you. Fellow colleagues, this has always been near and dear to my heart. As you know, my whole career has been as a scientist. I spent 2 decades as a senior evaluator at ECCC, keeping the toxins out of our environment. And during that time, I had no real challenges with my right to speak as a scientist. But 10 years ago at the National Wildlife Research Center, I pivoted in my job and started reporting to the Director General of Science and Technology as a strategic planner. That's when, during the end of the Harper years, we saw challenges to folks, scientists' right to speak. I'm happy to say today, as your full-time vice president, I have been working hard on this for the last 3 years. We've just done a member survey. We are monitoring over the last 3 years in all of the science-based departments and agencies on the implementation of science integrity. We are also have focal points in each department. So this is well in hand. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next up is Alauddin.
Yes, thank you for the question. We should allow scientists to speak without any repercussions on their career. So that would be the first thing. If they are speaking on a subject, it shouldn't come. And we've had a past PIPS scientist and was chastised by the government for speaking their mind. The concern that we always have from the government is sometimes they hire scientists for specific tasks. So like say for nuclear safety, you wouldn't want that scientist then to be preaching stuff about nuclear safety is dangerous because their job is to advocate nuclear safety. So there is that slight balance on that. But generally, we should have an open debate because we represent the Canadian people and the Canadian people need to know both sides of it. So I'd make sure that any employee who speaks out, they can't be disciplined for that. And that would be the way to go, just to allow people the right to speak out without fear of reprisal. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Alauddin. Jenny, you're up next. Oh, you just turned your camera off.
Thank you so much. Most recently, some scientists spoke out on their social media and were reprimanded within the workplace for their ideologies. You see, when we created the scientific integrity policy, that was a few years ago, and many things have changed. So I would suggest to the Scientific Science Advisory Committee to bring back all the scientific policies that are out there, because many departments amended the policy to suit their needs. And there are instances in the policies that actually shut our scientists down. So we need, as PIPS and our Scientific Advisory Committee, to pull all of these policies back and weed out some of the gray areas and make suggestions so our scientists can feel comfortable about their research and their expertise. Right now, there's a line, and this is where PIPS has to move forward and be ahead of the game instead of trying to catch up. And our scientists are important to us, and we need to advocate for them. And to me, by pulling together all of these policies and making it more modern for our members. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Frank, you're up next.
Thank you for the question. Well, our scientists are one of the larger groups within our union. Their work is so integral that it keeps all Canadians safe and healthy. As vice president, I would always insist that a member of the executive committee, either the president, vice president, to sit in on the committee to give the Science Advisory Committee more credibility and clout. Their presence is important as it shows support for the work performed by our scientists. I would have them present when making special announcements and speeches given by our members. In addition, I would advocate that PIPS have a repository of the work that is not classified or deemed to be protected so that we can protect what has been lost or what can be lost in the future. This repository is work from our members. It's important and should not be disregarded. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Sean, you're up next.
Thank you. The Harper years were very difficult for our scientists and our unit as a whole. We need to ensure this never happens again. You know, some of our scientists are still living with the scars of that period. PIPS in general needs to make sure that both our collective agreements and the laws around whistleblowing and scientific integrity are strengthened. We need to do this through both lobbying, negotiations, and working with our consultation teams on the various policies that exist. At the time when the Liberal government was first elected, they spoke of facts and evidence, and there were many changes made to unmuzzle scientists. But we're getting to the point where we need to really push them and make them show us that they truly are there to support our scientists and make sure that they have the voice they need to speak out when necessary. It's understood that, you know, a scientist can speak to their research and talk about their findings, both good and bad, you know, and it's the politicians that make the decisions on policy. But we really need to ensure that at the end of the day, our scientists are able to speak about what is their expertise and what is their great knowledge that they have spent their careers developing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Next is Al. Go ahead, Al.
Thank you so much. I wanted to tell you that that the Harper government, you know, everybody knows that they were trying to muzzle the scientists out there, that government era. And we had a prominent speaker, Dr. Shiv Chopra, and then we made sure that we backed up all the stuff he did on whistleblowing. And we have continued to advocate in our science advisory councils. We've also had science conferences. We have had prominent speakers such as David Suzuki out there. Climate change is a big issue. We have to continue working on our science advisory council. We need to strengthen our science committees, and we need to make sure that we continue to advance our science and make sure we publish our papers. And we have to enter into the Senate hearings and try to make sure that we have space there and that our work can be heard over there. So I think it's very important for us to make sure we continue with our work and make sure that it's evidence-based and continue with the funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Yvon, tu es le dernier à parler sur celle-ci.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Very good question indeed. Scientists were attacked by the Conservative government. And they are not well known, I would say, within and outside of our institution. They're not as known within the public. In Quebec, we had some information about science. Our member was flabbergasted to discover what we were doing, and it has to be shown to the public. I think this is what we need to do. I think we have to insist on lobbying. I also went around. I was able to visit some scientific centers. And I must say, we have specialists that are so good. I think we have to show them to the Canadian public. They have to be more visible. And I will have to congratulate all of the scientists. And what is nice to see also is that we need them. The Canadian population need them. And I would like to congratulate them for all their work. Thank you so much, Yvon.
To the last question before the closing statements. Jenny, you will be starting on this one. And the question is, there have been several resolutions approved at prior AGMs that the current board has chosen not to enact. What is your position on the board deciding against the will of the membership? And again, I repeat, there have been several resolutions approved at prior AGMs that the current board has chosen not to enact. What is your position on the board deciding against the will of membership? Jenny, you're up.
Thank you. This one really challenged me because I was truly surprised. The will of the membership is what the board should hear and listen to. And this is where we got stuck at PIPS, because I listen to the membership. I want to do well for the membership. And when we don't decide in favor of the membership, I'm not sure of the intent of the board. And I'm calling out myself as well. But to me, we have to listen to our membership. This is where our problems will take us down a very nasty, windy road. Listening to our membership, advocating for our membership. This is not a cafeteria. You can't pick and choose what you want. If the members give us a directive, we need to move forward with that directive. I was really disappointed in that meeting when a number of the will of the membership was denied. I threw my hands up when I should have advocated even further. But again, I didn't know where they were going. And I always thought the membership was the supreme being, and the board just made its directed the membership's concerns. So it was very frustrating. So I'm hoping the new board will open their ears, open their eyes, and respect the will of the membership. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Yvon, c'est à toi.
Mike, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an up-to-date topic. I have an excerpt in my biography. We have to make sure that the board is there and assume its role moving forward with the resolutions that were adopted during the AGM. I think this is pathetic, dishonest, and I include myself in that because I've been advocating for about 20 years. We have to make sure that we are moving forward with the resolutions that were passed. These resolutions were written because our members thought we had to change something. And the fact that we don't respect the resolutions that were passed, that we do not do a follow-up on them, on these, I don't think it should work that way. It has to change. And I think that with these changes, I think we have to change the structure of the board. I'm sorry to say it, but I think it's going to be fun to do that. We rework the structure. Like I said before today, I would like to apologize to our member that the resolution voted that the AGM were not respected. Al, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. This is the reason why I am running for this position. I am strongly against it. I think that we have to understand how the structure works first, that membership decides as to who goes to the AGM to represent the constituent bodies. The AGM is the supreme governing body. The supreme governing body is given a mandate to listen to the resolutions that are passed at the annual general meeting. Once those resolutions are passed, it is respected, and everybody out there has to respect it. That is what the purpose of the AGM is. All the other fluff about all the awards and all the other ceremonies are not the reason we go to the annual general meeting. We go to do business out there, and we need to continue to make sure we respect when there is business done that is accepted by the membership. We're 60,000 or more strong. We need to make sure we respect, because these are dues paying members who tell us how to run the business of the institute in between the meetings. And AGM is the supreme governing body. So I was very disappointed, and this is the reason why I put my name in as a candidate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Al. Sean, you're up next.
Thank you. As chair of the AGM, I see firsthand the passion and the conviction of members that bring resolutions forward. It's very difficult to do that, and it takes a lot of courage to to speak on the floor of the AGM. The board has a difficult time, has a difficult job to do between AGMs to make decisions based on the direction of the AGM. For the most part, they should follow it to the letter. And if they do deviate from it, they need to explain themselves at the AGM and in general back to the membership why they went counter to that. One thing for sure is they definitely should not be continually ignoring the will of the membership. We need to listen to our members. They are our raison d'etre. They're the reason we exist. And we need to make sure that we listen to our members. Otherwise, you know, we will have a great amount of disengagement from them. It's really important. It is the supreme governing body of the Institute, the annual general meeting. And those folks need to understand exactly why the board has made the decisions it made. And at the end of the day, the majority of the decisions made at the board of directors can be overturned by an AGM. And it's really important that members are asking at the AGM, if they're not happy with the decision the board made, to ask it at the AGM in either matters arising or disposition of resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Frank, you're up next.
Timely question, and I appreciate the opportunity to address it. I observed at several PIPS board meetings whereby the board defied the direction of the annual general meeting. As per our bylaws, the rules and regulations that govern our union, the AGM is the supreme governing body that sets directions on how our union will conduct business in the coming year, and the board must execute the direction of the AGM. To my surprise, several decisions made by the AGM were totally ignored and defied by the board of directors. The board of directors made these decisions in camera so that the majority of the board decided to defy the directions. I don't know who specifically defied the directions. There are a couple of board members who put on record that they've chosen to disagree with the board direction to defy the AGM. But just to be clear, I believe the whole board that is running for re-election should not have the opportunity to do so. Otherwise, we'll have more of the same. With regards to how to address these issues, there is a provision to call a special general meeting to address opportunities where the board has decided they will not follow the directions of the AGM. And that opportunity has not been given to requesters.
Frank,
Special.
thank you. Time is up. Sorry. Alaudin, you're up next.
Yes, this is a good question, and it's probably one of the reasons why we do need a change in the board. We do need new members who will respect the decisions of the AGM and of the members. Specifically in this, there were some questions referred to the board, and they did give them wiggle room. What I would want in the future is you cannot defer or refer to any motions to the board. The AGM has to make it, and I'll bring my computer scientist background in there, is it has to be a binary, yes or no. And it should have been a clear yes or no. In terms of opening up meetings, we did leave a wiggle room on that. There was in terms of the part-time salary replacement for the part-time, there was some wiggle room because they said the board go back and look into stuff. And I think given that the AGM makes a decision, it should be a final decision, and referring to the board just allows the board to, I guess, get out of respecting the AGM's direction. And unfortunately, in this case, a good board would just accept it and say, I don't disagree with it, but this is the will and I will live with it. But in this case, the current board decided we're not going to respect it and overwhelmed it. So I would respect the board, but I would also make it that you cannot refer anything to the board. The decision has to be made final at the AGM. No wiggle room to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Alaudin. And last on this one is Norma. Go ahead, Norma.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, instead of working on the disposition of these resolutions, to my surprise, the board put it to a vote and the motion didn't carry. My position on the board going against the supreme governing body should never happen. I'm a strong advocate of protocol. Most of you that know me know protocol integrity is my second name. Being brought up in a military family, that's what military is all about, protocol. In my humble opinion, this should never, ever, ever have happened. I was shocked to actually see that this went to a vote amongst our members, our board members. In my humble opinion, our AGM, as our supreme governing body, had given the board our marching orders. Madam Chair.
Thank you. And it is now time to move to the closing statements from all of our candidates. The first person to speak on this one will be Alaudin. Generally, we'll have the people who spoke first on the opening speaking last. Obviously, it's not perfect, but we'll start with Alaudin on this one. And as a reminder, the question that you were asked was, what would you like members to take away about you, and why should they vote for you? So again, what would you like members to take away about you, and why should they vote for you? Alaudin.
I would encourage everyone to vote for me, for strong leadership, for new leadership, to bring issues which are core principles back to the union. Bargaining, consultation, and representation. I've been involved with the pandemic for my health and safety right from the beginning. I sit on the policy committee for CRA, but we don't have a dedicated PIP staff resource dedicated for health and safety. Over the last 2 years, health and safety is paramount, but we don't have a health and safety officer at PIPS. Now, my colleagues at UT, they do have people like that who can participate. So we need to put the priority on that. At the last NCR Steward Council, I was recognized for my leadership and my commitment to the union because I got the Steward of the Year. What I want people to do is vote for Loudon Alibi, so your pensions and benefits are not diminished. Health and safety is paramount in the workplace. We do have negotiations with the National Joint Council about medical benefits and others, and we haven't done what our members need to make sure that our benefits keep up with our needs. And we need to ensure health and safety is paramount for our members in the workplace and in our private life. So please vote for me, and I will ensure my best to get that for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Alaudin. Second up is Frank. Frank, you're up next.
Thank you. I have always been a union steward who has no trouble saying what is on my mind and fight for what I believe in. I have represented members at grievance hearings, staffing recourse, and investigations of alleged misconduct. I have presented many resolutions and vocalized my concerns on these new initiatives at various PIPS forums, including the PIPS annual general meeting, to improve the way our union functions, to be more efficient in spending our union dues, and to ensure our dues are spent in programs that truly benefit our members. One of my first proposals was to eliminate the provision of free alcohol at PIPS functions after attending a couple of meetings as a new delegate over 10 years ago. It was not a successful endeavor on the floor of the meetings, but it did subsequently result in much less free alcohol being served at meetings. I have challenged our board of directors earlier this year when they disregarded the directions of the annual general meeting, which is the supreme governing body of our union, by attempting to call a special general meeting to address their defiance of our governance structure. Over the course of this town hall, I have presented or tried to present unique, reasonable, and effective approaches and proposals to address issues of the day. As Vice President, I will work hard with fellow members of the Board of Directors and members of the Executive Committee to look out for your interests and address your concerns. You can count on me to work diligently on your behalf. I would be honored to serve as your full-time Vice President. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Norma, you're up next. Norma, are you with us? There you are. Go ahead.
Chers colleagues, a lifetime of, sorry? A lifetime of cultural diversity, growing up in a French-English environment, 30 plus years of science, policy development, and strategic planning in a bilingual environment, more than a decade of strategic thinking with culturally diverse community and nonprofit boards, and a hardworking 3-year term as your vice president. See my 18-page annual report on the PIPS website. My experience and proven track record has allowed me to acquire the attributes to represent you with even more success as your full-time vice president. I've talked to you across the country, visited most of you. I've participated in science town halls with departmental science advisors, Dr. Mona Niemer, and also with Dr. Kara Tannenbaum. I've thoroughly enjoyed getting to know you, celebrating your successes, and letting you know you're not alone in your challenges. Our vision is for strong, healthy workplaces where you, as members, can be respected, can work, and serve Canadians in a professional, safe environment. I've listened to your views. Go to my website, www.normadome.com, French and English, to see my proven track record. For all these reasons, vote for Norma Dome is a vote for a stronger and more successful PIPS organization. I humbly ask you to vote Norma Dome, re-elect me as your full-time vice president. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Norma. And next up is Al. Go ahead, Al.
Thank you very much. Dear fellow members, stewards, and former board of directors and current board of directors, I have served the Institute for 26 years as a steward. I've made 2 Senate presentations, 9.5 years on the board of directors, half a year as full-time VP, 7 years on the AFS executive, worked on numerous cases for members. I urge you to vote for me because I am the right person. I've been the chair of finance, the chair of executive compensation committee. I have worked to make sure that we changed our auditors after 15 years at PIPS. And I will continue to serve you because I feel the time has come where I am multilingual. I have served members from all walks of life. Please make sure you vote for me, and I will make sure that I give you the best service possible, and we can make this institution a better institute for all our members all across the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Al. Et Yvon, c'est à ton tour.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. Be assured I will invest myself and realize with success my role as a VP, full-time VP that I solicit. That's why I collaborated with setting up several projects, the Committee on Harassment. I participated to symposiums on arrangements, the duty to accommodate. Also, I presided several groups, AV from 2011-2013, bargaining rounds with AV Group regarding the management of the Institute. I presided in 2009 the work group on a process and the structure of the Professional Institute. If you have an exemplary, I'd like to send it to you in French or in English. I was full-time VP, Committee on Expenses. I created the work group on official languages. I'm part of the FTQ Federal with the General Council. I mandated people so that they could participate in different committees, LGBTQ plus integration of people with disabilities, and our collaboration with the CLC interactive session for peers. And I worked on violence in the workplace, leadership, and full representation. And with the Institute, I'd like to broaden certain aspects, such as people. I'm drawing a blank here, sorry. People who do union work, unpaid union work, and I'd like to propose a pilot project to re-examine the structure of the Institute and examine its efficiency. Thank you. Sean?
Thank you. I would like members to know that throughout my life, I have always wanted to make a difference for others and have been devoted to helping people find real solutions to their problems. I have a deep understanding of our organization from my 20 years of service at all levels of the union. I'm also willing to listen and to learn from others and to hear new perspectives. I'm a passionate, warm-hearted, optimistic, and energetic person. I have integrity and high moral and ethical standards. In addition, I am willing to work with anyone to accomplish the important work we do together. Most people that know me know that I'm a very humble person. I've been told many times that one of my weaknesses is that I do not take enough credit for my accomplishments. It is not important to me who gets the credit for something. What is more important is that we all succeed in our collective goals. En français,
If I'm elected as full-time VP, I will make sure that all voices are heard within the organization. The consensus be attained as often as possible, and as someone who defends workers' rights, I will work with all members of the Institute. I will continue to fight for work conditions, for pay, for scientific integrity and work-family balance. Vote for me as VP, full-time VP, is to vote for leadership, intelligent leadership, and one on a human scale. Thank you for your support.
Candidate to speak today is Jenny. Go ahead, Jenny.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want you all to understand that I will work tirelessly on your behalf. You see, I am passionate about uplifting our membership, and I have no tolerance for leaders who are not in it for the right reasons, which is the well-being of our membership. These past 3 years, I was one of the regional directors and the chair of the HRDC. I spent unbelievable amount of hours working with our members, uplifting them, supporting them at the employers' meetings, and providing guidance. J'ai travaillé en collaboration.
Worked in collaboration with individuals and different interest groups.
In the past. Activism is my passion, and I believe that I have earned the trust of our membership by the positive results we've gained during the last mandate. When I sent out information, many members were just so grateful to see someone who was fighting for them in various forms. And the response was overwhelming. So I'm asking you for your support. I'm not here to play politics. We are here to get work done, as you can see by all the candidates on this call. But I want to make sure we're not in the same place 3 years from now. And I ask that you vote for me as your full-time vice president, and I hope you'll spread the word. But just know that we have a lot of work to do, because there are groups within the structure. Our retired members, what a pool of resources, and we need to use them. Use our members in a viable way. Thank you all. Thank you for today.
Thank you, Jenny. And that closes our conversation with the candidates for today. As you can see, we are finishing early. I am grateful to all the candidates today. We had allowed some wiggle room for lack of discipline. We didn't have to use it. Very grateful for that. And we've all gained 30 minutes back on our day. Good luck to all of you. Ça a été un plaisir de modérer ce.
It's a real pleasure to moderate this conversation today, and I wish you all good luck. Je voudrais
Tom Kirkpatrick to close for us.
Thank you, Lise. I'd like to thank the candidates for taking the time and for the effort and to work with us as we discover how to do this in the middle of a pandemic. I really appreciate how you guys have stepped up to the challenge of this. I want to thank the members who have attended today and let them know that this session was taped and will be posted on the PIPS website for members that could not attend because they were working. And I want to express my thanks for members who did take time off of work to attend this, or who took time on their day off to attend this. Thank you all very much. I wish you well, and I want you to stay safe during the pandemic. Looking forward to the election. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.